Let's take a trip back in time, to a time before I decided that I was going to be curious, thanks to a meme on the internet, and listen to a Blood on the Dance Floor song. I'll explain. There's a meme on the internet that compares Blood on the Dance Floor to Queen, calling Blood on the Dance Floor amazing, all because they're not gay. That's absolutely retarded. So I listened, and that prompted a 12-minute band review. It's time to talk about something else. Why am I okay with saying something so absurd to begin this album review? It's because, of course, I'm reviewing the Melvins, or in this case, Melvins Lite, with their album Freak Puke that was just released a couple of weeks ago. Now, this was originally my planned review for Monday. However, due to absurdities beyond my control, I wasn't able to do it. I had to take care of other things first, so we're going to finally get to it now. Now, the Melvins, if you guys don't know who the Melvins are, then you have been living under a rock for a very, very long time, or don't really understand the evolution of grunge, or the evolution of a lot of music in general, because the Melvins have been a core part of that, especially from the 1980s and onward. They're a long-running band. They've experimented with various forms of music, everything from sludge to, grunge to doom to experimental rock to psychedelic rock. There's just been so many different stylistic evolutions to this band that it's quite a phenomenal ride. If you listen to all of their material, you can probably ascertain that no one Melvins album is really like the other. It's a very, very unique discography. With Freak Puke, the trio now is doing some more experimentation, doing experimentations into what you could call experimental rock and maybe even some doom metal, though I would call it more along the realms of stoner rock or stoner metal, because there are some awesome jam sessions on here that would probably fit very well in your stoner metal section of your catalog and library, while at the same time also offering a classic take. I mean, I really like this cover of Paul McCartney and Wings' song Let Me Roll It. It's actually a highlight of the album. It's a fantastic cover, to the point that I'm actually going to recommend my manager, my boss, who is a huge Beatles fan, that he include it in his typical Beatles cover album. He likes to collect covers and put them on CD, and every so often play one of them in the store. I mean, everything from Coroner's version of I Want You, She's So Heavy, to any others that you can potentially think of. I think this Melvins Lite song is certainly one that fits the bill, even though it's not a Beatles cover. It's technically a Wings cover, but he is just a fan of the individuals anyhow. Now, this is also an album that features an upright bass as opposed to your typical standard bass, and also sounds like it has some strings in it, but it really kind of doesn't. It actually sounds more like the use of guitar as strings, which is a famed and fabled effect. It's kind of a cool little idea as well. In fact, this whole entire album is just kind of a cool idea. It's very strange. It's very disillusioning for somebody who's perhaps more attuned to conventional rock patterns. It's something that will kind of take them off guard, and you'll kind of understand why music from the 1980s and onward has kind of taken such a surrealist twist that's very a la the 70s and late 60s. It's kind of taken that turn backward, only with a heavier and a more more experimental vibe, because of innovators such as the Melvins that just decided that the conventional just wasn't good enough for them. And you have to give them a lot of credit. For example, the original band, the Melvins Lite, is now a four-piece that has two drummers, and the drums are interconnected. So they actually share, I think it's a high tom or something like that. So if they hit it at the exact same time, it's a doubled effect, which is really, really just crazy. Overall, this LP also flows in a very strange pattern. I mean, everything actually feels connected. It feels joined in the fact that it's absurd. And it works well with an album such as this, as opposed to another album where the absurdity actually affects you and kind of gets to you and feels very pointless and almost disorganized. Because this is an album that is not meant to take itself too seriously. This is a band that's creating avant-garde art. The last song, Tommy Goes Berserk, is a really good indication of this, because it's a song that starts off very kind of mellow and then kind of explodes into this just ridiculous jam session that you'd almost hear fused by bands such as Caius or Caius Lives Now. It's kind of funny how bands from the 80s and the 90s that were just one-word monikers, now that they've come back or have branched off and done different solo projects, or, you know, one member doesn't want to participate in a reunion, such as in the case in Caius Lives, have adopted this second word to go along with it. Melvins Lite is kind of cool because it's only 3 of the 4 members, and Caius Lives is, of course, a way to kind of also announce the fact that the band is back. So that's also an interesting duality that I find to be rather clever. This album is not for your conventional music fan. This album is for the music fan that wants to listen to something and be encouraged and inspired to write the next great surrealist album, or become the next great band that is willing to embrace a very random, surreal pattern to their career, where there's nothing about them that really remains consistent. Instead, they're just consistently experimenting with music and continuously finding ways to make it sound not only good, but also extremely relevant. That's what this album is able to do. This album feels really relevant, and of course it's by the band that makes experimentation just relevant. Really, if you don't know much about the band, do some research, because you'll find that they've influenced some of the biggest bands in history, and perhaps even bands that you yourself adore. Nirvana fans that may be perchancing upon this video because they've done a little bit of history and have never listened to the Melvins, I highly encourage that you do so. Melvins Lite is kind of a bad album to start on, because it's not the full band, it's not the full experience. However, it does kind of give you a taste of the eccentricity that really is present within this group, that really they just are a group of gentlemen that love to make music. They don't necessarily give a damn if it sounds like their previous sound or not to be repetitive. They just want to go in there into a studio and make music, fuck around or be completely serious about it, enjoy themselves, and release it. It's a pure art, and that's what music should be about. I like this LP. I really enjoyed it. I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. It was a real mind fuck. It was a head trip that was desperately needed amid all of the just crap that I've had to listen to within the past week alone. However, it's also silenced a lot of the crap that I've listened to over the past couple of months, be it country or pop or anything else that just generally sucks. So this is definitely something that will take your mind on a little bit of a vacation, and whenever you return from the trip, you almost want to leave again and take it again. And that is the mark of a solid album.